from all, to all, with all, for all, through all. We thank the gods of creation. We thank the ancestors. We thank the forces of nature. And we thank the earth. We thank them for their direction, their protection, their guidance, for keeping us, showing us, allowing us to know and enjoy life to its fullest, now and later.
Black people who once loved with the slow march of time. Time was ours to hold in the soft, low-born chambers of our hearts. And was we, the Afro mommies and daddies of a sun world, would turn our strands of hair into antennas to tune in the juju madness and syncopated love rhythms of Africa. And we loved with time, and we took the time to love, and with the right time we loved, and we loved time after time. Will we ever love again? Will we ever love again? Will we really ever love again? Or will we just sit and rot away with the brighter tomorrows in the skag field, rat-cluttered halls of our minds?
Black people, what y'all gonna do? Black people, what y'all gonna do?
Will the real black people please stand up?
Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun.
Jumbo Habari, and welcome once again to Our Story, the program that makes being black positive, relevant, desirable, and true to a lost nation in America. A program that speaks to the historical significance of the original people of the earth. Our Story Network takes pride in setting itself away from other programs that centers on entertainment or rhetorical mumbo-jumbo that misdirects your attention onto other things, that causes you to exhaust your resources and renders you brain dead. It is Our Story who talks about commitment to you and your people. It is Our Story that champions the reestablishment of the black genius that once ruled the world. It is Our Story that focuses you in on the rewards of black advocacy, black activism, black involvement, and black power. It is Our Story that encourages survival of the black race and solicits your involvement to that end. Black folks must remember, race first is the call of the day, and we as a people must. I say must take the pledge if we, the people of the original race, expect to survive. As I take the many lessons I have received over the years and reflect upon them by sharing these lessons with my brothers and sisters, I realize the power that we as a people possess for the most part has gone unnoticed. The masses of black folks who have been rendered lost and disenfranchised from the meaning and mission our creators intended for us to embrace is all but depleted. It is because of the mission and meaning of the life of our ancestors that I realized how blessed as black people we really are. What fascinates me are the many gifts I have been granted, which allows me to distribute the information onward to you. As always, that message begins and ends with the importance of blackness. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Greetings, friends, comrades, family, the inquisitive onlookers, and our beloved viewers. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to our Story Network. We thank you for being with us this evening, and we trust you will take something of value away with you after the program. That is the aim and goal of our Story Network, the network that leads the pack in modern-day communications and ancient and modern education. I say ancient and modern education because of the many errors we have found in the translations and interpretations of ancient records. The modern revelations by new black scholars have opened the window of discovery that has allowed the truth and knowledge originally disseminated by the black masters of education to flourish once again. This is one of the stumbling blocks that has kept black people from rebuilding their greatness and recapturing their birthright. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Our Story. Our Story Network goes to the ends of the spectrum in order to give you quality programming. In keeping with the theme of quality programming, I want to address the current conversation about reparations. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, representing the 18th Congressional District, which includes Houston, Texas, has reintroduced the reparations bill originally authored by Congressman John Conyers of Detroit, Michigan in 2015. Approximately 150 years after the end of the Civil War, Representative Conyers was still trying to gain repair and remission of America's worst Holocaust. Then, after Representative Conyers retired, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee reintroduced the bill, House Bill 40, a bill to establish a committee to study the effects of slavery on modern-day black people. I say all of that to say, isn't it time someone asked black people what they want? After all, as subjects to a study, I believe we should have a say in which direction this study should take. As a descendant of slaves, I definitely have something to say. First and foremost, what is the difference between emancipation and freedom? I raised these questions in my latest book, Our Story, The Original Holocaust, which describes the conditions from which we were released from bondage. Now, watch this. Emancipation is defined as to be free from bondage, oppression, or restraints, to liberate. It also covers to release from control of others. The most important part of the definition is the Latin inclusion of mansecure, which means to sell, transfer, purchase, which means to my declaration in the book, Our Story, The Original Holocaust, where I state blacks were never freed. Blacks were transferred from private slavery to public slavery, i.e. the penal system. To finish this autopsy, let us look at the definition of freedom. Freedom is the condition of being free from restraints, liberty, of a person from slavery, detention, or oppression. This is the most important part. Political independence. Exemptions from arbitrary exercise of authority and performance of the specific action civil liberties. This spells out the holiness of the Emancipation Proclamation. Emancipation did not free the black race. It only transferred the title from which black people are being held from one party to another. In my opinion, White America doesn't want the question of reparations to be raised because it will reveal that black people in America are still slaves, which goes to my original premise. Should not a major part of the reparations debate be the question and answer period? To forward this theory, I suggest you read Isabel Wilkerson's epic stories of Americans' greatest migration, entitled The Warmth of Other Suns. Isabel Wilkerson's research of the Jim Crow era in America will make the harshest of hearts soften to the agony of what black people lived through after the Civil War up until this very day. This book is also a testament that gives rhyme and reason as to the need for black people to receive reparations in America. Associating reparations with current conditions of the black race in America as it relates to bootstraps and clawing one's way out of the deplorable situations we are facing in America as black race, one needs look no further for rhyme or reason why reparations is needed for black people. The question becomes, where do we go from here? As a matter of consciousness, I have dedicated my life to informing our people in whatever I learn and whatever I have access to. As a communicator, I have found radio and television to be a strong medium for sharing information and shaping thought. It is a known fact that television and radio have shaped the ideas and reasons of millions of people throughout America and the world. Unfortunately, the reason and ideas have only been the concepts impressed upon the world by the oppressing forces, thereby making any images and ideas those of alien forces who only want to control and occupy the liberties and rights granted to the original people of the earth. This is a grandiose way of saying maintaining the enslavement of the black race, because those forces have manipulated the rights and access to print, radio, and television. Black people have to fit in where they can get in. That was until now. Tonight, we are going to investigate the other forms of communications. The other forms of communications have been called by many names. The one name that seems to be constant is social media. We have with us tonight a social media mogul who continually shares information and communications via social media as Vitamin Q, a website that provides content of both professional as well as amateur content. I want to introduce our guest, Vitamin Q, who is a blog contributor, not a blog, he's a blog builder, and he has been doing this since about 2012. Welcome to our story, and thank you for taking the time to visit with us.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a great introduction.
Well, you're quite welcome. Let me ask you about the blog, because as I noted in my commentary, social media has given black people an opportunity to bypass the traditional forms of communication, and now we're able to communicate directly with one another, whether we're in New Orleans, California, New York, wherever, or wherever in the world. I have noticed personally the fact that the police continue to terrorize our communities, and this is going out on social media. So it has brought us to what I'm sure the police departments call the boiling point for them, because now we have in real time the opportunity to see and judge what is really going on. not just with the police, though, but with other subjects and content as well. So, since you have a blog and since you have been utilizing social media, what is it that you have found that has helped our communities here in New Orleans and around the world understand each other a little better?
You know, I'm from the Generation X, so I'm not a millennial, a little bit older. So, you know, when we were coming up, you know, you're very isolated. You know, like unless you go visit a town or you have somebody there and you're mailing them or something like that. Email had just started and things. You know, you didn't really have an idea. You got to visit with people, but you don't know what their day-to-day life was. So you don't get to talk about the fact that black people in all the major cities, no matter how different their accent was or no matter how different their style of dress or whatever they were doing was, we're all going through the same thing in black life.
Now, give our viewers a little taste or understanding of what are the content and what are the subject matters that you address.
You know, you really gotta, I love your content and what you were saying, you know, about entertainment and the distractions and stuff like that. I will fill my head with the entertainment, but I took a lot of film courses. So I know the psychology of entertainment. You know, like nothing that they ever put on that TV or radio is by accident, not down to the sentence or a period. So when I saw how that they were going to use social media further to, you know, mass hypnotize us again, it just became important to me. I'm like, you know, usually I always used to write back in school, but you know, when you're competing with little white kids or you're trying to go to the big publishers, you know, they're like, we want this. So social media gave you the chance to just bypass all of that, put your message out there, regardless if they liked it or not. And I think that that's been something that's helped a lot of people around the country, and I think that's why they've kind of gotten together and maybe even given them a new life. So, you know, you never realize how disconnected from society a lot of people are outside of the major cities.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, we have several different platforms that our people use, Facebook, YouTube, just to name two. Is there some way that we can harness this vehicle to be more productive for our needs?
That's gonna come with the culture of what it is. Social media is like money. You know, like people are only gonna do with it what their heart desires. So you gotta really make sure that you know, like that you're teaching people the type of person that they should be, so that when they go to use a tool like social media, that they're using it for those reasons. Because I've seen a lot, you can kind of see it. I feel like a lot of us who use it to cancel other black people, expose other black people, you know, like, and it just becomes toxic and dysfunctional sometimes.
Yeah, well, sometimes people need to be exposed. Yeah. Let's get to the home ground here. What is it that you find New Orleans as far as its relationship to the black community? Where do you see us in the broader spectrum of things politically, and what advice do you have for us? You know,
New Orleans really fell behind. It's kind of unrecognizable of what it used to be. It used to be a very recognizable black city. You used to feel that it was a black city. Now you just feel like it's a black city controlled by forces that we can't see, by whites. We don't, you know, we're being marginalized here and there. So the only thing that I've ever urged black people is this. You know, I was in Atlanta when they did all of the gentrification. When I came back home after Katrina, I saw that it was about to happen here, and I urged us to be a little bit more proactive about retaining our property and retaining the culture.
We have the numbers on the screen now, so those that would like to get in on the conversation, we're opening them up and welcoming you to call in and share any questions or comments you may have with us, because actually the people that are the audience, the viewers, that's what the show is really all about. So we want to bring your concerns and your interests to the forefront. So you have an opportunity, they're open. Politically, where do you see New Orleans?
You mean like local politics?
Yeah.
when you look at our city council and you look at the things that we concentrate on politically, how do the things that we talk about advance the station of the black person in New Orleans? We talk about crime cameras a lot, but they don't work in our neighborhoods. We talk about speeding tickets. Everybody's losing their cars, getting booted. More people, we don't really have the type of economy that produces a lot of extra income. So when, they take our income, those are the things that are important. Anything that gets money in their pockets. But if you look at our school system, it's been gutted. So the school system is going to be the heart and the soul of of a community, just because of how we set society up to education. We have no autonomy of our own education, so we're going to be dealing with kids who haven't been taught by us and loved by us and groomed by us.
What does law and order mean to you?
Law and order, I strive for peace. Law and order to me means abuse and oppression. When you come into a society and say, hey, we're gonna impose law and order on you, that just means you're just gonna round up whoever you see as a residual. Like law and order is gonna be words used by oppressive forces. Israel says that they impose law and order over Palestine. So, you never hear law and order talked about in the perspective of white people, or like when they have mobs or when they start to riot or anything like that. You never hear law and order until you're talking about black people.
So you perceive law and order as being a specific set of rules and regulations for a specified people.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I ask you that because I hear this term thrown around, and I very rarely hear that no one's above the law. That was something in civics classes when I was going, that was one of the premier elements to the political subdivisions in this country, that no one is above the law. Yet, we find that if you're on the inside clique, law means nothing. You make a phone call and it's gone.
And that's being broad. I'm not going to say that was never true. It was, but this promotion of just what you said is so weird, because I was just having a conversation with my friend. He was saying it's like the new people are being groomed differently. Like they'll do a crime and not even like a blatant crime and not even care about the ramifications of it, because nobody feels like there's any justice or anything like that. And I'm like, well, when you see cops murder people, or when you see politicians, or when you see people who are wealthy get off for crime after crime after crime, that's gonna show other people that we don't value those rules.
I'm gonna take that to something very specific now that you mentioned, and that's these crime cameras. Very few people know that the crime cameras, based upon law,
Are
illegal. Now, what does that mean? If you've ever gotten a red light camera ticket, it tells you in clear and understandable language, this is not a moving violation. Yet, the evidence against you says that you have gone over a specific mile per hour, and therefore you now must pay.
We're at a time right now where they're imposing on all of our civil liberties. Those cameras are illegal and unconstitutional. People are getting, and people, they'll come and get your car off the street for it. It's literally illegal. The crime cameras, they only seem to work when it's convenient.
Yes.
And did you see that situation where they found out that a man it was a crime camera that said that it was a Orleans Parish crime camera, but it was just a private one that he had set up by his house?
No, I missed that. Where was that?
You'll love that information too while we're talking about it. What happened was an accident happened, the police were there, they said, oh, we see a crime camera, so they went to go check the camera, and they were like, well, that's not what it was, but it had the logo of the police on it. When they went and checked it out, it turned out to be in front of the house of the man who the city contracts the crime cameras from.
So he has one for his private use.
Private use.
But
it says it's got the police badge on it.
Now, in law, I've come to learn that a ticket has to be sufficient on its face for it to be prosecutable.
And you're supposed to be able to defend yourself in a court of law.
And let me tell you, if you ever go down to defend yourself from them crime tickets, red light cameras, my goodness gracious.
You're wasting your time.
You're wasting your time.
You're wasting your time.
But I've taken it 2 steps further. So I wasn't able to win at City Hall. So I appealed it. And where do you go? You go before a judge in traffic court.
Okay. How did that go?
I went there, and they rubber stamp whatever the city has said and sends to them. I mean, they take no evidence in consideration of the law, and they just rubber stamp it, and you have been found that you are you have to pay. Then you go, if you appeal that, you go to criminal court, where you have to go before a criminal judge and fight it. Criminal judge looks at it, listens to you, responsible, and it's on its way. Now, we hear the city, NOPD, and everyone else complaining about crime in this city, especially among our youth.
Which is a lie, kind of.
Yeah, it is. My suggestion, if you want crime to go down, then start obeying the laws that you put forth for everyone else.
You know, I don't like to argue that anymore, because I know that all of that is just propaganda anyway.
Exactly, you're right.
So like, one thing, you know, when you say, hey, I don't like to get involved in entertainment, I'll be respecting that. But then when you try to get involved in politics and you're like, everybody's just kind of feeding you crap that they make up, you're like, this is kind of a distraction as well. That whole thing with our juveniles, I'm like, where do you even come up with those numbers? And why are we labeling our kids juveniles?
Yes.
We went on to find out that then you got police officers setting up hits out in the east and stuff like that. But, you know, Cantrell doesn't really say much about that. So I didn't really like the whole campaign against juveniles. I don't like the whole, you know, the talk about the crime cameras. When do we talk about things that are actually going to help the city a little bit more? We talk about things that we go backwards a lot.
Now, you mentioned Cantrell, who happens to be the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a known fact that she ran on eliminating, not reducing, but eliminating the red light cameras. So what is your position on that?
She ran on that, and then she reneged on it. My position on that is like anybody that will lie to you. You know, like, hopefully the next time people win, there's an election, people remember that. You know,
but they usually don't.
They usually don't.
And that's unfortunate. But, you know, personally, I have seen the electoral process as being a hoax, a joke. It does not address or resolve problems for the common man, the poor people, and especially our community.
That's fair. That's very fair. I feel the same way. I feel discouraged a lot. I also feel like when we talk about vote, 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 they're trying to put the responsibility of bad politicians on the people.
What kind of grade would you give our city council?
There's some new people on there that I really like. So right now I'll be objective and just give them a C.
A C?
I'll give them a C.
Okay. For city council, huh? You have any thoughts? What kind of grade would you give the mayor?
A little bit lower than that.
Yo, I mean, if you're gonna fail it, let's fail it. I mean,
I'm not ready to fail her yet. I'll say a D plus so far.
D plus.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't like the way that she responds to things. I think she responds to things as if she's insulted that people ask. You know, and I can understand, you know, if you're doing a job and behind the scenes it's very stressful, but when it's time to talk to the people, I feel like she's telling us, well, you know, like she's doing us a favor by even addressing us, and she pays attention to a lot of things that I'm not sure really matter to us, like, you know, painting the car for the LGBT for Pride Month and stuff like that. That's not things that the city of New Orleans culturally, you know, known as a black city, is going to get like excited about. You know, the things that she calls wins, I'm not really sure that I see them as wins. You know.
Yeah. The culture of New Orleans, do you find it being protected at all under her administration?
I find, especially with social media, I find the culture pretty much being exploited.
Yeah.
I feel like we're, you know, like there used to be that tourism side of New Orleans that we gave them, you know, that's great, but then there was our New Orleans. Now our New Orleans has become the whole tourism New Orleans, you know.
What advice do you have for Cantrell?
You know, I wouldn't waste my time giving her advice. You know, because I don't think that she would take it at all. I think we have a lot of leaders that are set in how they want to do it, and they don't really care what you have to say about it.
You have any advice for City Council?
I would like for City Council to grow some balls. I feel like they come off a little meek on a lot of things. You know, and I understand, like, politics is hard because you got to keep the people happy while lying to them. Mm-hmm. You know, so. You know, I get very discouraged about politics. I'll do my civic duty and vote or whatever like that. I try to be as active as I can. If people call me to do, you know, things that I really think will help the community, I'll be there. But as far as thinking that politics is going to save us, I'm nowhere near that.
Let's move to the state. What would you give our state representatives and senators?
D minus.
D minus? Mm-hmm. Now, I know you mentioned about our schools. Do you have any suggestions for the parents concerning our schools?
The parents really got to get involved. You really got to take being a parent as a job. And I know it's hard. I don't tell people that easily. They'll get mad when you tell them that easily. But you can't send your kid off to school and expect that to be their education, because it's not happening. Look what just happened with Kennedy, where they found out that they, you know, like 80 kids that they graduated, they found didn't have the credits to graduate.
And they're right. They have to come back and tell them now that they have to turn in their diplomas.
Exactly. So you can't be waiting for them to find that, for there to be audits. You got to stay on top of your kids yourselves, because they really don't care in these schools. It's all business to them right now. And this is your kid's life.
You know, Governor Edwards is supposedly a Democrat.
Supposedly.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. Supposedly. But I have a hard time seeing him as a Democrat. He has done more for the Republican Party than most Democrats I've seen in years.
Well, he's that new Democrat that came in under Obama, where they think that being overly hospitable to Republicans and showing Republicans that we're willing to not meet you halfway, but come all the way to right before your finish line and give you whatever you need, hoping that you like us. Or he's just a Republican in disguise, or a Dixiecrat.
Coming back here locally, let me ask you this. What is it that citizens can do to make life better for themselves here?
It's getting harder, because you know what? One thing that they really made it hard was it used to be less stressful to live in New Orleans because of the cheaper housing and cheaper rent and stuff like that. So it's like now people are really stressed because they're really having to work hard to live well here. You know, and then even if they're living well, they're living in an unrecognizable neighborhood. So I try to tell people, New Orleans will keep you partying all year long. If you think about it, there's going to be a festival every month. In between there, you know, now we have second lines all year, it seems like. there's always something going on, but you really kind of got to step back sometimes, check yourself and just really evaluate, is the city giving you back as much as you're giving it? I feel like black people give this city so much.
Right. We get very little in return.
We give them everything.
I agree.
For free, and yet sometimes we give it to them just for some attention, just for the hope that maybe they'll treat us a little better, and we have to kind of get out of hoping for that.
What suggestions do you have for our youth, especially those that find themselves in this curfew and find themselves being blamed for the uptick in crime?
We love you. You gotta, we never follow things when we talk about our youth with "we love you," beginning and end it with that. We don't want to discard you. When I heard the police chief talk, he was like, "Hey, parents, y'all need to step up." He was right to a certain extent. People found an extent with that, but these kids, they need some attention. And people are saying, "Oh, well, we used to have these jobs in the summer." I'm like, well, look, if we don't have that right now, how are you going to supplement your child's life? It's hard to say, "Oh, let's do this for the kids," when you can't be in their home with them. So we really got to get back to this culture of being a good parent, being more involved with being a parent, and separate the generations a little bit better. Right now, we have too many older people trying to be with younger people, adapting to their culture. I remember when I was little, it was like you get around a group of older men and you see how they are. You don't interrupt the conversation. You just kind of sit there and try to absorb some of what it is in respect.
Yes.
But now you see the younger men, the older men
challenging.
They're either challenging them or they're going down to their level, which is even worse.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be bringing them up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard, you need mentors and things like that. But I tell them, I'm like, don't look up to the people who reaffirm your lower self. Don't, be more than that.
What do you see as far as NORD is concerned?
What should we see with NORD? What do you when you say, I'm like, it's great to have parks, but do we really need our kids playing in parks all day? Is that what we really need?
Well, I know that personally, I have always been a proponent for NORD programs.
Yeah.
My children came up through NORD. I believe that it taught a certain amount of discipline. It taught a certain amount of teamwork. They learned a certain amount of lessons that they normally wouldn't have learned had they not been exposed to NORD. I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but those of us in the community that are involved and active with our NORD parks are fighting to keep those parks. There was right after Katrina, there was a move.
I saw that
came in that tried to take our children's parks away and turn them into doggy parks. Can you imagine? I mean, and we're talking about, it was none of us fighting for these doggy parks. It was all of the aliens that I call them carpetbaggers, that had moved here after Katrina, that wanted to usurp our parks and actually wanted to turn them into their own personal parks.
The aliens, the invaders or whatever, it's really bold. Their gentrification. It's really aggressive and disrespectful here. Like in Atlanta, you could tell they were kind of tiptoeing around it because they knew that the blacks had a little bit more money and stuff like that. They're a little bit more pretentious. But here they just came and pretended like they could just bulldoze over us all, completely. I didn't know that they were trying to take the park away completely. I thought it was just kind of like the programs of where they organize the teams playing against each other and stuff like that. Because I'm like, with the park, do we even need their assistance, or can we do those things independently? But you're saying that they're fighting just to keep that green space there.
Well, I mean, the city seemed to be in favor of turning these parks over to the special interest groups.
Okay.
And turning them into doggy parks, But it's been because parents have rallied and come out and have fought to keep the parks, you know?
You know, I'll tell you this. I'm really, like, the fact that we have to fight for these things in this right now is like a move backwards for me.
Yeah.
You know, like, look at how they keep us fighting, treading to stay above water.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tool of control. Let me get your opinion on the Audubon Zoo. And I ask you that.
They're pouring a lot of money into that right now.
Yeah, because they are burning a lot of financial resources from many of the programs that they have taken out of the social climate, which was our kind of safety net. So what is your
There's
take
been a
on
real
that?
drive for the whole Audubon Institute. I mean, I on one hand, I'm like, I like it as a resource, but you know, it's not cheap. So when, you know, like, it's good for kids to get there. There's free days on Wednesdays, I know that. Those are the type of things that they kind of build up when you want to gentrify the city. When you want to attract more Caucasians from around the country, you want to have insectariums and aquariums and zoos and stuff like that. They're even building another aquarium on the Gulf Coast in Biloxi. So, you know, those, you know, I'm not opposed to those things. It's great. I'm just like, why do we have money for that, but other things we don't have money for?
What about the millage that they passed? They used NORD and wrapped NORD with the Audubon Zoo in order to get the millage passed. What were your thoughts on that?
That's that snake stuff that they do, where they try to pretend like it's a win, but it's really just more oppression against you, because I think that since there was a fight with NORD, that's probably how they'll use it to destroy it. If it's connected to that, then they'll use it to deplete all of the resources from NORD to put into the Audubon, and then when they find out that that failed or the resources are gone, they'll pretend like they can't maintain it anymore.
Our social media respondents are letting me know that the free days at the zoo change weekly.
Yeah.
That it's on a rotation.
It's on a
basis.
rotation. It's like you can go to the Audubon one day, Insectarium one day, and whatever those other two are. The aquarium.
Aquarium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to keep our social media happy out there. Okay.
I told you they get.
So, what is it that you have found in your work with social media? What have you found is the underlying problems that social media participants are looking to change or want to see?
You know, for the most part, they've made it better. They really have made it better. They've made things more inclusive for blacks who felt that they were excluded.
You mean the social media made it better?
Social media has made it a little bit better. I'll definitely give them that. It's been very double-edged. And I think that the kids that are on there sincerely want things to be better for black people all around. You know, like I can definitely see that in their tone.
We have a caller we want to get to. Caller, we appreciate you watching and participating. We ask that you turn the volume all the way down. Talk to us directly in and through your telephone. Caller, what is your question or comment?
Good afternoon, and how you doing, WC? This is Mustang Sally.
I thought so. How you doing, Mustang?
I like that name of BC. I like that name, BQ. I love it, the alphabet.
Indeed.
I'm calling because, oh, Lord, WC, I think we are all depressed with New Orleans. How can you add on to the World War II Museum when you got veterans under the bridge?
That's
you have nowhere to put them.
That's really good.
Sally, that's a heck of a question.
I know. I be listening to all these little stations on the radio and stuff, and I'm going, well, wait a minute. You can took the schools, and then the mayor, she's going to knock down Six Flags. You think they're going to let her put what we need up there?
No, not really.
Thank you very much.
How have you been, Sally?
Huh?
How have you been?
Oh, I've been pretty good. Just like I said, I sit here and I read. I look at your station. I look at John's station. You know, I listen to different stuff on the radio. I'm so sorry I don't like BOK. I'm so sorry. They need some other people to fight for us. We have no one to fight for us. No matter what you vote for, they don't fight for us. And then it wasn't too long ago they told you, oh yeah, don't you forget to vote. Don't forget to vote now, because you know what? That's your civic duty. But you know what? It's your civic duty, but they're not telling you that you can it's voluntary to go jury duty. It is not. If it was voluntary, why if you don't go to jury duty, you go to jail? That's mandatory.
Well, Sally, from what I hear, the changes that are going to come about with this new ownership, it's going in another direction, and it's going to be worse than it is now as far as the radio station fighting for us or even informing us, for that matter.
And I believe that all we can do is stay strong, WC, and just pray and just live for the day and do the best we can to help anybody that we can. This is all we can do. I love your show, WC. You know, every now and then, when you get a good show, I'm going to call through.
I appreciate it.
Good talking to you.
BQ, you stay strong.
You too, baby. Thank you so much. Y'all
have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
I liked what she just said.
Yes. I mean, she dropped something heavy on us out of the blue.
You're building a World War II museum, and literally a block away, those people are in tents.
Right. Veterans.
Yeah. And you're knocking down their tents as well.
Yes. Yes. You come along, you have the city sanitation come along and take all of your belongings, throw them in the garbage bin, and then tell you can't stay out here. But then they tell you we have a free day down at the museum. If you're a veteran, you can go.
Yeah, that was the other one. And you know, the disparity of wealth here is only growing between black and white. You know, and everybody sees the homeless boom. Homeless wasn't like how it is right now.
No.
This is the worst that it's ever been. And I think a lot of those people were coming in from people are coming in on megabus and just stay there, you know, like a lot of migrants and stuff like that. These don't feel like our homeless people, you know, so.
Well, I don't know. I think we have to claim them now.
Yeah.
They are here, so we have to claim them. So what else are you doing with your blog?
You know, I've been doing a lot of radio. I was in radio last year, and so I'm about to get back into radio. I've been, you know, me and a station are working together. But I'll tell you, when you're in social media, and we went through the whole Black Lives Matter, and we went through the whole, you're watching people die by police hands every day, it'll really start to trigger you. It'll really put you in a place where you're like, how she was feeling, like it's very discouraging, like, you know, we got to stay prayed up, who fights for us, things like that. So social media also make you feel very powerless as well, because if you're sharing all of these images of injustice and you're thinking, oh, if we show them, then things will change, and they're still not changing, then you're basically they're basically showing us that our voice isn't important like that as well. Then you watch other people just get rights just off of a whim. So they're purposely not doing things for us to make the situation better. So I feel like, you know, like, are we just making ourselves sad, explaining to them how they hurt us?
Yeah, how does someone get involved or in touch with your blog? How do
you know what?
Get
we do have a, contact us on my website, www.thevitaminq.com, or you can look me up on Instagram, thevitaminq.com, and message me there. I'm very responsive there.
Okay, we have it on the screen there.
Mm-hmm.
Thevitaminq.com is how you can interact with this young man here who is doing a fantastic job in our city.
I love y'all job here.
Well, thank you. Believe me, we've had to fight to stay here. But that's what, I mean, anytime you're bringing truth and knowledge to people, you end up having to fight to keep it up.
Have you encountered that as well, though? I mean, like, you might have to even fight your people sometimes, you know, like.
I know. You know, especially if they're politicians or preachers.
You know, I definitely met with the wall of the gatekeepers here here in New Orleans. You know, like they're there, and they're there in media. You know, there's a lot of people who like being the only black voice. You know, like there's a lot of people who like being the only black employee at a company. Or there's a lot of people who like being the only black person that the rich white people like. You know, so when you come in, you're like, hey, I got this talent, I'm ready to do it, and they're the one who's blocking you. You know, you don't know how do you fight that when if you attack them, everybody's like, oh, you're attacking a black person, and he fights for us, and people see it like that. So there's a lot, you know, it's tricky, and they just kind of threw this tool in our hand, and now, you know, and told us, hey, do what you want, and now they're using that to fire us. You know, police are now using it to gather as evidence and stuff like that.
Against us,
so that's
yeah.
that double edge that I was talking about.
Yeah. We have the fastest hour in television, believe it or
Did
not.
an hour go by already?
It's that time. So
He
do
did
you
say it
have
would go by
anything that you need to tell the people?
You know what? I want to
go?
just finish. I really love this commentary. I'm going to take these words home. I really appreciate you contacting me and having me out here. This is one thing that's really going to help us. People across different platforms coming together to show like a united front.
Yeah.
People really, really see that because they'll be like, oh, y'all are over here and y'all are over here. I was like, no, we're all together.
Yeah, that's right. A gentleman that I know called me up when you were on BOK a month or two ago and suggested that I contact you and have you brought on here. He was very impressed with you and your presentation. So, and that's what we're about.
Yeah.
You know, we want to share as much of the information as possible. We want to put the spotlight on as many people as we possibly can, because there's a lot of us out here working. We just don't get the spotlight.
We don't, and we won't give it to each other for some reason.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like that's been a big problem. And I'll tell you, I love talking to the older generation as well, because I'm like, I like y'all values better. You know, I just do, and you know, when you talk to the younger kids, and I'm like, look, and even people my age, I don't like the way that the people my age do it, because they'll go along with things that aren't good for us just for a joke, or just to kind of, because they don't know if they feel like, oh, I'm not old yet, or I don't want to be too old. But I'm like, don't be afraid to step up and be mature and take control of, you know, our community.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you again. I'm going to be calling you and bringing you back.
Oh, I'd love to.
Because you have a lot to offer our listeners as well as your viewers. So
yeah.
I want to keep this going, because we need a strong voice in this community. We need strong voices in this community, so that we're able to understand the onslaught that is coming on us.
Because they think that right now we're in the thick of things, and we've only just begun.
Only just begun. I want to thank our viewers for being with us. You have the information where you can get in touch with me if you need to. I want to put my information up there for the YouTube and anything else they may have. There it is there. We do these shows on Wednesday, and usually by Friday they'll be up on the YouTube channel. So you have our phone number, you have our YouTube address. Stay in touch. Oh, and I want to send a shout out to a friend of mine. Have been trying to hear from him, but haven't heard from him. I've called, and I don't know. Probably he's just taking time. And I want him to give me a call, let me know how he's doing, and that's Brother Hezekiah, and see how he's faring these days, if you don't mind. But other than that, brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for being with us. We will not be here next week because of the celebration, put it that way. We'll be back live with you in 2 weeks. We're going to have a fantastic guest who is going to talk about education in New Orleans. He's going to give you an option to the public-private education. And I was well impressed when I went over to their school, and I want to share that with our viewers, because I think it's something that many of our parents is looking for. So that's in 2 weeks. Enjoy the festivities over the next week or so. Do what you do. But remember, in order for us to bring about change and make change, we have to be able to recognize change, willingly to participate with change. Until we see you again, brothers and sisters, stay strong, stay black, but by all means, stay committed to blackness. Uhuru Sasa Ungawa.
High in the listening skies, my eyes glisten and tears drop down like rain. Not from the pain, from the joy of how far we came. My brainstorms are designed to celebrate our reign. The collective, monuments erected, continents affected, presidents elected, ancestors making moves with the music we've been blessed with. We use it to keep communities connected. Through harmonies, a harmony is collected. Reaping the fruits our foremothers invested. Lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, yeah, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, listen, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Sing a song,
yeah, talk to
full of the faith that the dark past has taught us.
Come on.
Sing a song, full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun,
facing the rising sun. Come on.
of our new day begun.
It's a new day.
Let us march on
Yeah.
till victory is
Yeah.
won. Till victory is
This is
won.
victory music. Come on, I hope you feel it.
Ba-ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.